We will now create a title sheet. Before we create a new file, it is important to notice that we are still in the active workset that you created earlier. If you wanted to create a new file under a different workset, you would click on Close, and that would take you to the home screen where you could then select the applicable workset. Go ahead and click on New. And we are going to name this file Title Sheet. Before we click Save, we need to select the applicable seed. Click Browse, and notice by default it opens to the seed folder. Go ahead and open the Sheets subfolder and notice that there are a number of one-to-one seeds that have been set up for ORD. Because these are one-to-one, they are true paper size or 34 inches by 22 inches. These seeds will be used for all sheets other than plan, profile, and cross-section sheets. Because we are creating a title sheet, select Roadway Title Sheet and click Open, and then click Save and give it a second to load. In general, the title sheet itself should look familiar compared to SS2. The title sheet seed has all text and data fields embedded other than the begin and end labels, which are now intelligent in ORD. If you zoom in, you'll notice overlapping text. Like in SS2, we will utilize predefined level filters to turn on or off the required levels, depending on the project phase. To activate level filters, open the level display, which is located within the primary tools in the ribbon. Change the option from levels to filters. For this exercise, we will assume that the project is in the preliminary phase, so we will select the Sheets Title T-Dot Preliminary Level Filter. Left-click to activate and close the level display. And then zoom out and notice that the only applicable levels and data are showing on the title sheet. Next, we will need to add two reference files. The Fundamentals Reference DGN, which contains the alignment so we can accurately place the title sheet in the Wilson County map. Typically, you would download the applicable county map from the TDOT website first, but it has been provided for you in the class files. Go ahead and open the reference window, which is located within the primary tools in the ribbon. Click on Tools, Attach, and by default, it should open to the DGN folder within your workset. Holding down the Control button, select the Fundamentals Reference in Wilson County DGN files. Make sure that the attachment method is set to Coincident World and click Open. You'll get an alert that says selected files do not belong to the active workset. Do you want to continue? Once again, click OK, and you'll notice that two reference files have been added. Go ahead and close the References window and then click Fit View. Notice that the title sheet appears in the lower left corner, and the two referenced files appear in the upper right corner and are geospatially correct. We ultimately need to scale the title sheet accordingly and move it to the correct location within the county map. The scaling is dependent on whether the project is greater than or less than 2 miles. If greater than 2 miles, the title sheet scale will be 1 inch equals 1 mile scale or full. If less than 2 miles, the title sheet scale will be 1 inch equals half mile scale or half. ORD has been configured to label the title sheet at either of these scales, as you will see later in the exercise. For this exercise, the project is less than 2 miles, so we will use the half scale. Zoom in to the title sheet using your mouse wheel, and then activate the Element Selection tool and select all elements of the title sheet by drawing a square around them. Give it a second to select all elements. Once highlighted, open the Scale tool, which is located within the Manipulate tools in the ribbon. Make sure that the method is set to Active Scale. We are going to key in a half scale of 31,680, which is 2,640 times 12. If this project was greater than 2 miles, we would key in a full scale of 63,360, which is 5,280 times 12. Left-click anywhere within the drawing window to accept the scale and give it a second to process. And then right-click to clear the tool. You'll notice there is a second component of the title sheet that did not scale. We will discuss this shortly. Go ahead and click Fit View, and notice that the title sheet has been scaled. With the title sheet still selected, next open the Move tool, which is also located within the Manipulate tools in the ribbon. Zoom in and snap to the map center and left-click, and you should see the title sheet on your cursor. We are going to place the title sheet in the approximate location of the referenced alignment. If you zoom in, you'll notice the alignment in this general area. Go ahead and left-click to place the title sheet. Once again, give it a second to place, and then right-click to clear the tool. Zoom out and notice that the title sheet has now been moved. Left-click anywhere within the drawing window to deselect the title sheet. Now, we need to trim the county map to the extents of the pink square embedded in the title sheet. The trimming functionality and procedure is the same as in SS2. Before we trim, we need to place a fence to define the trim extents. Open the References window again and turn off both reference files. Then close the References window. Next, open the Place Fence tool, which is located within the selection tools in the ribbon. Make sure that the fence type is set to block, and the fence mode is set to inside, and then zoom in, and we are going to place a fence within the pink square. Snap to the upper left corner, and then snap to the lower right corner. Left-click to accept placement, and you should see a light green square to indicate the fence extent. Now, before we trim, open the References window again and turn on the two reference files. Hold the Control button down and highlight both reference files, and then right-click and select Clip Boundary. All elements that will be trimmed are highlighted in pink. Left-click anywhere within the drawing window to accept the trimming operation. Close the References window. Left-click to clear the fence, and notice that you now have a trimmed county map. Next, click Fit View once again and zoom in to the second component in the lower left corner that we saw earlier, which is called a sheet boundary and is new in ORD. There's one attached to all sheet seeds, and it is required for them to print correctly. Since we moved the title sheet to the correct location within the county map, we need to also scale and move the sheet boundary in a similar manner, or else the print will be blank. Go ahead and open the Sheet Boundary tool, which is located under the View tab here in the ribbon. We will apply the same scale that we did to the title sheet itself, so click on the Scale drop-down arrow and select Custom. Enter a design scale of 31,680 and click OK, and notice that the sheet boundary is now scaled. Now we need to move the sheet boundary to the title sheet border. By default, the Move tool within the sheet boundary dialog box should be on. Left-click the lower left corner of the sheet boundary. If you still see the original sheet boundary size on your cursor, like on the screen, clear the tool by right-clicking and then open the Sheet Boundary tool once again. Make sure the Move tool is toggled on and left-click the lower left corner again. You want to make sure that the scaled sheet boundary is on your cursor to avoid any scaling issues later. Next, we are going to snap to the lower left corner of the title sheet by left-clicking and then right-click to clear the Sheet Boundary tool. Click Fit View once again, and now you should only see the title sheet. Now, we need to add the Begin and End Project Preliminary labels. Remember These are the only labels that you need to add since everything else is embedded in the title sheet. To do so, open the Models window, which is located under the Home tab within the Primary Tools in the ribbon. Left-click to select the roadway title model, and notice that the title sheet properties appear. Go ahead and change the type from Sheet to Design. You'll also notice that the annotation and design scales have the updated scales reflected. Go ahead and close the Models window, and notice that the drawing window is now black. By default, all sheet models have a white background. All design models have a black background, and all drawing models have a gray background. To add labels to the title sheet, you must be in the design model or else they will not work correctly. Next, we need to select the applicable element template, which is Begin Project Preliminary. It is located under Design, Annotation, Title Sheet, and left-click on Begin Project Preliminary, and notice the applicable attributes update automatically. We will be selecting the begin and end points along the referenced alignment. For better clarity, open the Level display, which is located within the Primary Tools in the ribbon, and change the option from Filters back to Levels. Highlight the Fundamentals Reference DGN file, and turn off all levels other than Design, Centerline, Proposed. This will make it easier to snap to the begin and end points. Close the level display, and then zoom in and notice the red alignment. Next, open the Place Label tool, which is located under the Annotate tab within the Notes tool in the ribbon. Within the Place Label Settings dialog box, we need to set some of the settings before placing the label. Make sure that the leader option is toggled on, and make sure that the type is set to cell. Left-click within the cell name field, and make sure the following cell is selected: _design, title sheet, project description, begin, preliminary, project less than 2 miles, and left-click to accept. The reason there is an underscore is because the Place Label Settings dialog box pulls from all cells in the workspace, and this allows certain cells to be atop the list. Next, we will need to select the applicable dimension style: Design, title sheet, project description, project length less than 2 miles, and left-click to select. We'll leave the other 3 fields as is and make sure the annotation scale is toggled off. Now that the settings have been selected, notice the prompt in the lower left corner of the drawing window. Identify element or data point. The element is referring to the alignment that the label will be placed along. Left-click the red alignment and notice the next prompt in the lower left corner. Select Point Location. It is asking for you to select the beginning point location along the alignment. Zoom in and click the applicable point, and notice the leader appears on your cursor. Zoom out and snap to the upper blue dot on the left side of the county map. Repeat the process now to place the End Project Preliminary label. Before doing so, change the element template to End Project Preliminary, and then within the Place Label Settings dialog box, we need to change the cell name. Left-click in the field and scroll down to the equivalent preliminary cell, which is _design, title sheet, project description, end, preliminary, project less than 2 miles. The dimension style and all other fields will stay the same. Zoom in and select the ending point location along the alignment. Left-click and notice the leader on your cursor once again. Snap to the lower blue dot on the left side of the county map, and then hit Escape to clear the tool. Before we examine the labels, I'm going to turn on the data field background, which is a user preference located under File, Settings, User, Preferences, and click Text, and uncheck Hide Field Background, and click OK. Click the upper left arrow to return to the drawing window, and then click Update View. You should see different data fields with gray boxes in the Begin and End Project preliminary labels. Any data field that has a gray box means that it is linked and should automatically populate. The state and federal project numbers will not populate until the sheet has been added to the sheet index, which we will do later in this exercise. The other thing to note, the station and the chain name are linked to the alignment that you selected, and the northing and the easting are tied to the point that you selected. If you want to leave the field background turned on, they are for visual purposes only and do not print. Next, open the level display once again and turn off the Design-Scratch-User1 level, and then close the level display. Before we add the sheet to the sheet index, we must first change it back to the sheet model. Within the Properties, select Sheet, and notice that the white background reappears. Also, we must open the sheet index for editing in order to add any sheets. Click on the second icon, or pencil icon, and then expand your work set and expand the Plan Set folder. We will be adding the title sheet to the title sheet subfolder utilizing the drag and drop method. Open the Models window and left-click and drag the roadway title model into the title sheet subfolder within the sheet index and release. If you expand the subfolder, you'll notice that the sheet has been added, and you should see a 1 in parentheses, and that the overall sheet index now has 3 total sheets. Go ahead and close the Models window and zoom into the upper right corner. Notice the 3 fields highlighted in gray automatically populated. Zoom over to the left side of the sheet and notice that the state and federal numbers automatically populated in the Begin and the End Project preliminary labels as well. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the field backgrounds. Remember, they are under the Text User Favorites. Click Update View, and this completes the creation of the title sheet. For a typical project, you will also fill in the designer info, the project link, the survey data, and the project name and county. Go ahead and click Fit View, and then click Save Settings, and then Save.